2020 was a year that we could have never planned or scripted. During this past year, we were reminded, though, that God's thoughts are not our thoughts, and His ways are not our ways. As always, as a church, we were looking forward to the new year, expecting God to do great things. And I want to tell you, God did great things, but it did look different. In March, we as a local church, as well as the church as a whole, was faced with decisions to make that we had never had to make before. In March, due to the pandemic, we closed the doors to in-person services, as most churches all over the world decided to do. It was extremely difficult to make this decision, but it was one that was only made after much prayer and counsel. But during this time, we weren't sitting idle, sitting on our hands, but we were still building the kingdom. We were able to purchase and install sound and video equipment so that we could take the message of Jesus to a much larger audience through live streaming on several social media platforms. During this time, people who had never heard of Remnant Church, more importantly, never heard the message of Jesus plus nothing, heard it for the first time. Understanding, though, that personal fellowship and connection that happens only uniquely inside the church, we knew it was important to get back into the sanctuary. So on May the 24th, we returned back to in-person services. And although it seemed like everything had changed, nothing had changed. God met us there. And when God shows up, miracles happen. In 2020, we saw 197 people give their life to Jesus. We baptized 80 people in water. During a pandemic, we had 557 first-time guests. In the last quarter of this year, we had 25 people go through Grow and become partners here at Remnant Church. 31 people in the last quarter of this year went through our newly revised 6-week-long New Believers small group. Because of your faithful generosity, in October, we started our Spanish translation ministry, where the preaching from Remnant Church is translated into Spanish so that we can reach what we believe is an untouched, overlooked people group here in our community. We set out going into 2020 believing that it was going to be the year of more, and I'm here to tell you it was. More souls were saved, more lives were changed, more families were restored, and more people heard the gospel, but there is still much work to do. There are still hurting and broken people. There are still families who are broken and divided. There are still lost people who need to find their way home. So I believe in order for us to go forward in 2021, we must first go back. We're going to have to remember who God has called us to be and what God has called us to do. We are kingdom builders. We are Remnant.